Okay.
Hey. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Hey.
Yes. You are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports as Ordered. And of course, you know what it is. Basketball is back. The NBA is back. We got questions. We got a preview. We're going to give you some things to look out for, some expectations, and tell you who we got winning the NBA title this year. You know, like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. Do all the good things, hopefully with a liquid death in your hand. And if you only got some water, guess what? Liquid death hydration is the move. So let's get right into this. Mr. Logical.
Yeah.
Basketball is back. We had a great playoff last season. One of the best playoffs I've seen in my lifetime. I'm not trying to do the hyperbole thing. Legit, one of the best playoffs I've seen in my lifetime. But the first question, first and foremost, are the Thunder going to win the title again?
I mean, it's set up for them to be in a position to win it again. J-Dub is out right now. He had the surgery after Game 7 last season, so I think he's still recovering. But with an 82-game schedule in the historic season that they had last year, had like 50-something wins by like double digits, something crazy like that. Or like a lot of their wins by double digits. And they have the same bodies. Like, they have the same advantage that they had last year when you predicted them to be the NBA champions. Like, as soon as they signed Hardenstein, you were like, that's your NBA championship, because that's what they were missing the year before. They still have all that. Chet obviously has to stay healthy. I don't know if he's put on any weight, any muscle, if he's worked on anything. But he's hit the floor a few times in the game against Houston. So it's like, you got to stay on your feet. Like, you simply have to stay on your feet because your bones are kind of brittle, even though you're young. You got to stay on your feet. But like I said, OKC, SGA is still going to do his 2-dribble step back, get the little nudge off. Being a big guard, it kind of helps because it doesn't look like he's creating. He's obviously just deliberate, but because he's so big already, it just doesn't look like he's overdoing it. He's not like, like some guys, like, we talk about like guys like LeBron and some of these guys that play the post, they just like, they overdo it, where he's like more subtle, and you can't put a guy that's too big on him because he can just blow right by him. And then he's crafty at getting these fouls called. So, like I said, I think they're set pretty good for a repeat. I haven't really seen anybody else in the West that made enough moves that's like, propels them ahead of OKC at all.
So, as you said, I was one of the first people, if not the first person, that I remember.
I'm going to say you was the first.
Yeah, I think I was legit, like, not even trying to gas myself. I think I literally was. But being that I was the first person to say that Oklahoma City would win the title, I think I should be the first person to say that Oklahoma City's not going to win the title this year. I'm actually going with a team that they should be very familiar with. This team took them to 7 games last year, had one of their best players go out with a hamstring injury. Tried to give it a go, but, played well, but it was just too much. I'm going with the Denver Nuggets to win the NBA title this year. We'll get into who they're going to play in the finals and all that shortly enough. But I just think that with Denver being able to take them to the to the seventh game last year, to your point about how teams didn't make enough moves or whatever to challenge OKC, I like the Tim Hardaway Jr. pickup to get another shooter out there. I like Bruce Brown. He's got the championship experience with them. Another ball handler, to run the offense. So you can take a little bit off of Jokic. And just in case Jamal Murray gets his annual injury,
Yeah.
I do like who should have been a rookie last year, Deron Holmes. I think he's going to provide an element off the bench, for Denver this year. And of course, they got rid of one tall shooter that decided not to hit shots and brought in.
And he hadn't shut up the whole offseason.
Yeah, like I mean, going
I'm
in
like, shut up.
Yeah, he going in on the WNBA, anybody, you know what I mean? But I think Denver upgraded, with Cam Johnson. So we'll see that play out, of course. But with that being said, Mr. Logical, since you did pick OKC,
most likely,
who would you say is the biggest threat to their repeat?
Let me see. I'm looking at my list of squads here. I don't think Memphis did much. I like how the Clippers always seem to put players together with the intention of like winning, but it's always something that just doesn't mesh, either the age or the contract or just the expectation. I think it's just too high for them. Golden State bringing Kuminga back. Kuminga got like if I'm his agent, I'd fire myself. Like his deal is he got like he literally got like seventh guy on the bench money. Seventh, eighth guy on the bench money, but not like up and coming seventh guy on the bench. It's like
2 years, 48 and a half.
48 and a half. It's like I think Malcolm Brogdon just retired. He was getting 26 and a half. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I don't know, you just people want to stay home, you want to stay whatever, but I get it.
Well, I think that he just ran into the market because you remember free agency started and initially they were flying like hotcakes. And then there was that big stall, where it was like, well, the guys that were going to get
stall
paid
was because Golden State didn't want to make a move that involved him. But they don't make moves.
In general, the league
like they don't make an off season move, off the court move that involves him, so he can like go play somewhere. And they don't do enough when he's on the floor to get him involved there either. So it's like you're paying him $24 million to, I want to say be a distraction because I think that's too far. But it's like, what are you paying? Like you want him to be the heir apparent to Clay and kind of fill in that Clay role? Then you got to give him opportunities to play like
Steve
Clay.
Kerr has to act like he exists, first of all. But
that's what I'm saying. Like you're not even giving him an opportunity.
But I think the free agency just stalled because remember, like the big names got paid right away. And then all these guys, it wasn't. I mean, Russell Westbrook just got signed 2 or 3 days ago. So
Russell Westbrook's probably like 12 years older than
I know, but
Kuminga.
I'm just saying. But it was just a thing. So so with that being said, the market stalled, and there were talks that ironically enough, that the Kings were going to trade for Kuminga, but it didn't happen. So we'll see what happens. But how are you feeling about the Rockets?
I like the KD move because I think KD is a great basketball player. I just don't know if it's sustainable because the best basketball we've seen KD play was he had 2 bona fide threats offensively at his side.
Okay.
Early years of OKC, and then the flow that he had with Golden State and how they moved the basketball. And he's in part of the reason he said a lot of interviews. He was like, I went to Golden State because they played a beautiful brand of basketball. He was like, I liked the way they played basketball. So I wanted to go play that kind of basketball.
Yeah, I'm sure it had nothing to do with the rings.
Listen, that all comes and goes, but even with the rings, it's like this championship and bust narrative. People still don't respect the rings. They're like, oh, well, you're a mercenary with this team. So it's like, even with the rings, is like at least he got the part that he really loved, which is playing that kind of basketball. I think the fallout and then going to Brooklyn and then the Phoenix is like he didn't have that same thing. Bradley Beal and Devin Booker should have been, but one of them needed to be the de facto leader of the trio to make it work. Because Kevin talks about it a lot that he's like, I'm not a leader. Like I just want to play ball. So in Houston, I think they're gonna look to him to be more of the lead role. And I'm not sure if they have another person. If he doesn't do it, that's gonna be able to do it. And they don't run the same kind of offense that he likes. It's very drive and kick, athleticism over like grace.
It
It's like,
reminds
okay,
me a
use your
lot
athleticism, get to the
of
rim.
It reminds me a lot of the offense that John Calipari ran at Memphis when he had Derrick Rose and Chris Douglas Roberts. It was literally like, hey, you guys are gifted. Just make a play. Like no system, no, hey, we're going to call curls. We're going to have the defense hedge. It was literally just, I'm throwing the ball out there. Y'all make it happen.
Yeah.
But
These are the plays. Be ready
right,
to catch and shoot. Be
he
ready
was
to
probably
drive
like
and
a high
kick.
school coach. He was probably like red, two, those were the
Yeah.
plays. And and then on top of that, the Rockets, Kevin Durant, he's played 60 games twice since he left Golden State. The good news is those were the last 2 years. The bad news is one of those years was 62 games, which was last year. So he's still not necessarily playing the games, that you need for the way that they're going to have to rely on him to be their offense. But it's dad joke time, So if the
Yeah.
76ers were trust the process, the Rockets are rush the process.
Oh,
So
that was a good one. I thought you
y-
were gonna say rush. When you said trust, I was gonna say rush.
yeah,
I like
so
it.
so
That was good. That definitely fits.
they scapegoated Jalen Green. He's over in Phoenix now, so I'm definitely interested to see how that works. Because
Yeah.
Devin Booker is probably going to have to play point guard literally the whole time. He did average 7.1 assists last year, only 2.6 turnovers. So you like that, ratio there, but
But it was the same Idoka drive and kick offense where it's just like
right.
use
And
your
they got a new coach
athleticism.
again.
Yeah. Use your athleticism to beat this guy and to beat that guy. So like I like I did feel like Jalen Green was the cast off. I don't know why. I don't know why they were so eager to move off of a young talent. I know he's probably due, I believe, in 2026.
Well,
He's
I
going to
think
be
it's the
due for one of
LeBron
those
effect.
$300 million deals.
I think it's the LeBron effect, but as a head coach, because the last time we saw Ime Udoka before he went to Houston, he was leading the team to the NBA Finals. So usually when you hire a new coach, you have an idea about potential or this is where I think this guy can take us. But we've
Yeah,
already seen Udoka take a team to the finals. So I think it's that situation where Udoka is probably sitting around going, I'm not sitting around to build. You know what I
yeah.
mean? I
Give
was
me the
at the
pieces I
precipice.
need. Yeah,
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Let's get there, So I think that probably had a lot to do with it. But what do you feel about the team that has made the Western Conference Finals the last 2 years? Where are we on the Minnesota Timberwolves?
you said your statement of rush the process. I felt like they did that when they made the move to get Julius Randle and for Cat. Like I didn't think that was a upgrade. I thought it worked out better for Karl Anthony Towns. I didn't know how well he played defense when he got to New York. I know Tibbs was going to work him to death. I just didn't think that was a good move, and I think I think that's what's going to happen to them. They have a superstar that you can build around. The traditional way of the NBA, you have your young superstar, charismatic, above the rim. We were talking about it in our pre-meeting about how we feel like people don't give Jokic and Luka that same kind of credit because it could be partly race, it could be because they're foreign. And I said it's because every era has had like a dominant, high flying, charismatic superstar, no matter from the last 30 or 40 years. If you go even before Jordan, had Dr. J. And so they've always had that. Anthony Edwards is that guy. He's in commercials, he's in movies. You can put him on TV. He's everywhere. And I think Minnesota's like, oh, we just got to build around this guy instead of like, we need to build a great team. I don't think OKC looked at SGA and said, he's so charismatic, we could just put whomever around him and we're going to allow his talent just to, you know, give us over the top. They're like, okay, we need rebounders, we need on-ball defenders, we need guys that come off the bench and catch and shoot, we need backup point guards, we need these kind of players. I don't think Minnesota builds their team that way, and I think they're going to flame out probably earlier than the Western Conference Finals because I don't think they add the proper pieces when they lose a playoff round. It feels like they subtract from the team and the team chemistry, and then end up giving a lot of money to somebody else. Yeah.
So for me, Minnesota is tough to peg because when I think about it, they still have the same problems that they had last year. You know, Mike Conley's another year older. You know, Dillingham, you know, I don't know if he got enough minutes last year to where he can just step in this year and hit the ground running to assume that role. I think that he'll get there eventually, but, you know, he is a little small dude. He's going to need a little more, you know, more reps. You know, Terrence Shannon came in towards the end of last year. The thing that's helped Minnesota is their defense. At, you know, for whatever reason, when the playoffs start, that defense ratchets up, you know, and as long as they can do that, they'll give themselves a chance. But it's hard to imagine a team with the flaws that they have making it to the Western Conference Finals for a third straight year. I know people like Jan Behringer, the rookie that they drafted this year, but I said the word rookie. So, you know, Julius Randle had an atypical playoff run for what he normally does. So you're banking on that to happen again. And if they run into OKC, for example, I think we're going to see that again. As far as the Clippers go, last year I thought the Clippers would have gave OKC a good series because OKC was in that position of, we know how talented you are. We know what you did during the regular season, but can you finish it? They've answered that question. They finished it now. Regardless if people want to say, oh, Halliburton got hurt or whatever it may have been, they got the job.
Yeah.
They got the job done. You know what I mean? So with that being said, I think the Clippers are just another year older, another year too older. I don't like the moves that they made. I don't like Chris Paul, you know, coming there. I don't like Black Brad, you know, unless you're going to play him as the sixth man. You know, Norman Powell is in Miami now. You know, I don't like John Collins, you know, another guy that you're adding to a team that can't stay healthy. So I'm out on the Clippers. I still think they finish with a top 5 or 6 seed, but I don't see any noise coming out of there.
No, they were too old like 2 years ago. And now they're too old and injured and want to low manage even more. So it's like, I don't know. I've always felt like, I don't know if this little brother complex thing is real, but I feel like Steve Ballmer really bought into it and like really overdid it. Like this comedian I follow on Instagram, Lawrence Johnson, he does all like the crash out of the day, the hater of the day. He went to a Clippers game and he talked about how like everything's automated. Like they have like facial recognition. So you can like pay for your food with your face. Like it's just all they kind of ties to your account. And like he's like, the stadium is crazy. And he was like, the pictures don't do it justice. So he did like a whole little walkthrough, but it's like, it just feels like all of that other stuff is going to overshadow the 40 and 42 basketball you're probably going to get, or the 44
what did they do with Kawhi this
basketball.
year? You know, they sat him out for a long time last year. Do you think there's pressure from the league to play Kawhi with all the Pablo Torre stuff going on?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that really, because we haven't heard much about it since. So if it is a big deal, and because there's money involved, and because you're dealing with one of the richest owners in the league of any sports team and in any league, it'll get resolved. Like I said, they'll probably get docked a fine of 0.000% of his money, and then maybe they'll they'll lose a draft pick in 2028 or something crazy like that. I can't
Which
imagine. Like I said,
hopefully
it
they
just
got
doesn't.
one. I don't even know if they got one.
They probably don't have one, But like I said, I can't imagine that it's such a far fetched idea that there's not already some kind of violation and subsequent punishment in place for it.
Right.
And I don't think it's a scandal enough for people watching basketball to be like, oh my God, because they didn't go back to back NBA champs because of it. Like
Right.
you cheated and you slid $28 million in a paper bag to a player, and that dude stayed at home for most of your important basketball games. So it's like, if anything, you should encourage teams to do stupid shit like that, because obviously it doesn't work.
So, how we feeling about the old teams? Lakers, Warriors. How we feeling there?
I think they're going to be on TV a lot. I think it's going to be entertaining, but ultimately the NBA better start picking out the players they want to elevate, hire them PR teams, and get them on CBS in the morning, the Today Show, get them on any kind of talk show, get them on some of these Twitch stream podcasts with and start really selling these new faces to the masses. Because right now, you got Cooper Flag, who's still going to have to learn how do I beat? Because I think Cooper Flag might have just turned 19 or might have just turned 20 or something along those lines. Like he should have been a senior.
He was the youngest. He was either the youngest or second youngest player in college basketball last year.
So I think he reclassed to go to Duke early. So he has to figure out, how do I get Luke Dort off of me so I could get this shot off of this pass off. He can't also carry the weight of like, this is the new face of the young generation. So they got to start getting SGA and more shows, even if these guys are foreign and like you're kind of worried about their English. Who cares? Put them out there. Just get their countries involved. Like they have to start really, because we're not going to be able to survive. Not survive, obviously we will, but like the Clippers are going to be old. That's going to break up. The Lakers, LeBron has to retire. It's just,
I mean, he's
math,
already
age,
missing tonight,
body,
or the first game of the season with the sciatica issue.
Yeah, that's not something that anybody in their 20s gets.
Yeah.
Look it up. In the history of Earth, like I don't think a 20 years ever missed a game for a sciatica problem.
Yeah, I think we see Luka throw his name into the MVP conversation this year. We'll see how the team does around him. We'll see how long LeBron's going to be out. But, I think they start off the season a little bit better because this is what Luka is used to, where he controls everything.
Man.
Yeah, like you don't have to share
guy.
with LeBron. And even though obviously from a realistic standpoint, you would say having LeBron would make your team better. But I think Luka can flow now and get more comfortable. So the concern for me is when LeBron does come back.
Well, LeBron has done this throughout his career where when he felt like the team chemistry might have been a little off, he was like, all right, I'm not going to play for 2 weeks. I got a back thing. He's in his latter part of his career. I got a back thing. I'm going to take the next 10 days off. I'm going to get you guys like 5 games to like fill it out. Get your confidence. Shoot 12 to 14 shots where you normally get 4. You shoot your 10 to 12 shots where you normally get 2. You get 20 minutes where you normally only get 10. And that way, when he comes back, because LeBron, people will make it seem as if he can't adjust to basketball. He knows what's going on. He can adjust. Especially if you're looking around like, yo, if Luka's cooking, cool, I'm going to stand over here because you got to defend me. I can still shoot.
Right.
I can still drive and kick. I can still score. I can still dunk. I'm still LeBron James. But it's like, now you got to keep a defender here on me while Luka does his thing. And then that help defender has to figure out, okay, am I going to help to Luka or am I going to help over here as corner LeBron while LeBron's standing, taking a break, and then he plays his defense. I think Golden State, Steph Curry's having like the greatest second half career resurgence. Like he's everywhere. He's fun. His personality's everywhere. His wife needs to stay off the internet. Like just stop. Like be happy. Just be happy at home. Just be happy doing like start a podcast. Like just be happy. Like
you gotta love the Warriors, right? You gotta love them. It's like, hey, Steph's another year older. Steph's another year older. Draymond's another year older. Jimmy Butler's another year older. You had your 31-11 record when Jimmy came over. And then you know what else you got? They decided, oh yeah, let's add Al Horford to the mix. Another old dude. So I think that they're going to miss Kevon Looney a little bit. Just the intangibles that he brings and the energy that he brings, because Al Horford can still go. But we remember, when he left Boston, went to OKC, went to Philly, it didn't go so well, and he ended up back at Boston. So I don't know how that's going to look. I don't think they're going to fall off the face of the earth. I've seen some people pick them to go to the Western Conference Finals. I don't know why, but I think it's just name recognition, Steph, all these things like that. So for the Warriors, here's another dad joke. So for the Warriors, this is the last dance. The only problem is it's the robot. So as far as these young teams go, Spurs and Mavs, how we feeling about the Spurs and Mavs?
I like the Spurs. I like the piece that they added. I think they have to get better. They got to get the ball to Wemby. His presence is such an advantage on a basketball court that this has to be the year where the organization takes advantage of that advantage that they have. Because you're the only one with it. You're the only team in the league that has that guy. You shouldn't be anywhere near the bottom of the Western Conference when you have a guy who not only is he tall, he's gifted with the ball, gifted defensively, and he's just a threat just because he's on the court. He could be anywhere in the defensive end and make one step and be able to contest a shot at the rim, or anywhere on the offensive end and a good pass, he's shooting a floater or he's laying it up in one step. He's just having that kind of dynamic. They got to be able to do it. Steph Castle, Rookie of the Year. You got Carter Bryant. Like, you just have so many young pieces. Like, just Coach Carter, the situation. I taught you to run. What do you think I want you to do in this game? Run. Run, score.
And provided that he stays healthy, got to be Defensive Player of the Year. Vassell
probably would have gotten it last year.
Yeah. Vassell is the one that I'm looking at to get him the ball. I think Luke Cornett is going to be an underrated pickup for them. Harrison Barnes still there to be your veteran leader and all that. Dylan Harper ready to rock and roll. The problem that they have is something that a lot of teams would like to have. Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, and De'Aaron Fox. A lot of teams would take that issue of how to get these guys minutes. So I look for the Spurs to make a run to get to the playoffs. And
you got to be creative. They got to be creative, though.
Yeah,
if they're back with the same stagnant stuff they've been doing for the last 2 years, they might as well just go ahead and make a couple of trades before the trade deadline and just pack it up. Because if
they're going to give somebody a headache.
This core.
They're going to give somebody a headache in the first round of the playoffs. Whereas Dallas, on the other hand, I think Dallas is relying on too many variables. You got to get Kyrie back, but probably not until January. AD is always in and out the lineup. He's got the eye issue, but he's gained a lot of weight now. You got D'Angelo Russell holding down the fort until Kyrie gets back. I just don't like it. I'm here to see Cooper Flag. That's about all the interest I got in the Mavs.
Yeah, that's about right. But like I said, they're going to do their job to highlight him as the young superstar. Meanwhile, they're probably going to ignore San Antonio, who has multiple young superstars.
Right.
And then when the conversations, because we know how ESPN and Fox Sports and all these other pundits, if he doesn't come out like gangbusters, averaging 18 to 20 points, if he doesn't come out averaging, 19, 6 and 6, I'm like, oh, is this really the guy? It's a tough league you got to figure out. We talk about Alonzo Ball, how they just punished him when he came into the league.
So
Memphis. I don't know what Memphis is.
Well, Memphis got a guy that I'm looking forward to seeing. I love Cedric Coward, rookie that they drafted this year. He was supposed to go to Duke. Thank goodness that he didn't. But they got enough as it is. But I'm interested because they got David Black 2.0. You know what I mean? Their new head coach replacing Taylor Jenkins. I'm trying to say his name, but I'm gonna go with Thomas Iasalo, but he took over with about 9 games left last year. They went out and got Ty Jerome to shore up the bench after losing Luke Kennard. They brought in KCP as a part of the Desmond Bain trade. He only shot 34% from 3. Learned the hard way. It's hard to play when you don't got LeBron and Jokic. So,
Yeah.
we'll see how that looks in Memphis this year. I was looking forward to Scottie Pippen Jr., but he's already on the injured list to start the season. Zach E had surgery in the offseason, so he's out to start the season. Jalen Wells will be back after the broken wrist after my guy KJ Simpson did him dirty on that dunk attempt. And then, of course, Ja Morant, he's only played 59 games the last 2 years. There was a stat, before the playoffs this year where he hadn't even played back-to-back games in 2 years. So the key for Memphis is going to
His
be
injuries are strange because
they're weird,
he's always injured. And it's like, I get it, you hit the floor, but like, don't keep doing that. Like, look at Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade had to just stop trying to dunk on everyone.
Yeah.
Learn to pull up.
So
SGA is pulling up on these dudes all season long. He will not. You will rarely see him fall running full speed trying to dunk on someone.
So with that being said, do you have a surprise team in the West that you have making the playoffs that either shouldn't or didn't last year?
Well, I think my biggest surprise would be San Antonio because
Okay.
I think I think of all the teams that were doing poorly over the last few years, they were in draft position to get really good players. They made the deal to get De'Aaron Fox, probably one of the quickest guys in the NBA. I probably think he still is, even, been in the league a handful of years. The West, I'm looking at some of my notes here, and the projections for wins are too damn optimistic. And I don't know how the math is going to work out because I got OKC with 59 wins, Denver at 52. Seems reasonable. Minnesota 49, Golden State 56.
Brand
Los
horse.
Angeles, the Clippers and Lakers 49 and 48 respectively. And then the tier 3 teams is like San Antonio, Dallas, and Memphis 44, 40, and 40. It's like somebody's got to have.
Well, you remember last year, most of these teams, because OKC had the 68 wins, but
Yeah.
a lot of these teams that were from 3 to 7, they were only separated by 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, but this is 1 through 15. And no one's gonna suck. No one's giving you 27 wins.
Well, I think Memphis is going to fall to the back of the pack. Be down there with New Orleans, and who I love, Jeremiah Fears. I can't wait to see him. The Kings, Doug Christie taking over full time now. The Jazz are going to be at the bottom. I actually have Portland as a surprise team as far as making the play in, not necessarily getting into the actual play off. But as you always say, 2/3 of the league make the playoffs. So
it's a weird number when you think about how many games play, like the league plays 82 games, and then at the end of it, you could have a team at 7, say the Sacramento Kings, that won 47 games, playing against New Orleans, who won 41. Because it's 7 versus 10, and New Orleans gets in. It's just weird to me that you put 20 of your 30 teams in a playoff format when you have 82 games in the tournament. I know, like I said, I like the playing as far as like the competitive part. It's just weird the way they do it. I just wish they would have found a better way to make it more competitive, or I know you're trying to sell a TV thing because I figured that was the reason. I was like, okay, we want more competitive games. Then fucking give them a couple extra foul calls and tell the refs not to call so many fouls and let the games flow a little bit better, and we'll get our entertainment. But if you go to a game and you're paying $200 for a couple of nosebleed tickets, and Amen Thompson gets 2 quick fouls, it's like we came here to see the young star, and it's like he's on the bench because you only give him 6 fouls in the whistle happy regular season.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Portland as my surprise playoff team, the Drew Holiday effect. We'll see if they keep him all year or if they end up buying him out. Scoot Henderson starting the year on the injured list as well with that hamstring. Shaden Sharp, I'm looking forward to average about 22 points this year.
So this is
Uh,
you said this is play in
yes, play
projection.
in. Yeah, they're going to
So you
be in
got
there.
them 9 or 10.
Yeah. And then you got Denny Abia. I'm putting his name in the most improved player race. They got Hansen Young, who everybody started calling Jokic for some reason. Donovan Clingan ready to make an impact on the defensive end as now that DeAndre Ayton's out of town. I just like a lot of the players on Portland. I like Chauncey Billups. They gave him the extension, even though he hasn't had a winning season yet, and which is weird because they had a 10-game winning streak at one point last year. So
Yeah,
that's just odd. But anyway, so I picked the
that's
Nuggets.
definitely a 2-5 pick. That's definitely a 2-5 kind of
So I,
out of left field pick.
I picked the Nuggets. You picked the Thunder. Who do they beat in the finals?
Who did they beat? You know what? It's just so many guys are hurt. So many guys are coming back. So many guys moved. It's even the guys that are coming back kind of fragile. I like the Knicks. I like the Knicks. I think the Knicks are whole. I think the Knicks are probably in position because some teams are going to be sellers. I think the Knicks are going to be in a good position at the trade deadline to bolster up a hole that they have. So I like the Knicks. I like the ball being able, Jalen Brunson, Cat. And Cleveland just always seems to be on the verge of getting rid of one of their stars. So I just feel like they're gonna kind of blow things up the way Atlanta did after they went to Eastern Conference Finals. It's like they're gonna look at it and the season might not start the way they want. We'll say 30, 40, 35 games in. There's something like 19 and 16. Just on a they're gonna be like, you know what? Maybe this isn't the case, or Darius Garland misses some time because he seemed to be quite injury prone recently.
He's out right
Donovan
now.
Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell's always, when he plays, is high intensity and it's 50-point games and 60-point games, but he's also been bit by the injury bug as well, where he's missed extensive time. So I just think that Cleveland is gonna be one of those teams where you gotta have it together, and then it's like a house of cards, and it just kind of just flutters.
So I'm actually going with Cleveland. I think the Knicks finished with the 1 seed though. I like the moves that they made in the offseason. Jordan Clarkson off the bench, to add to Deuce McBride, Yabusele from the 76ers. So I think they got a lot going on there. They might start off a little slow. They do start off with Cleveland, in the first game of the season, I believe. But I think that there's going to be a transition because you had Tibbs who didn't necessarily have an offensive system in that way besides, hey,
Yeah,
Jalen Brunson, we're going to rely on you to be Josh Allen. But now, they got Mike Brown in who came from San Antonio under Pop. Then he, went to Golden State under Steve Kerr. Lots of ball movement. And I'm interested to see their offensive dynamic because Jalen Brunson has had the ball so much. I'm interested to see if they try to implement some of that into their offense, which will help them
it
long
would definitely
term,
help him because he
but
he
it'll be
he
an
was taking a
adjustment.
lot of he rolled his ankles a lot because he's always like driving in there with the trees, not a lot of not playing with a lot of space. We talked about how KD loved playing with Golden State because of the space. Jalen Brunson, his ability to just kind of wall off defenders when he's dribbling the ball. Imagine if you give him space, you have to close out on him, and he could just
Yeah.
pump fake and get that midi. Because I know the midi's an abandoned shot, but he's good at hitting the midi, getting to the rim, and then he's just a gamer. He just knows when the lights are bright. Watch me step up. There's only so much energy
And
you can have when you're just constantly dribbling the ball against another team's best
I
defenders.
just don't know if he's efficient enough because we've seen these dudes like Allen Iverson, take a team to the finals, but he doesn't have the athletic gifts that Allen Iverson had, the speed, the crossovers, all that. He doesn't have that package, if you
He's
will.
quick and he's stocky. So like
He is, but I think
where
that
he
adds up
lacks
because,
his speed.
but to
Yeah,
your
where he lacks
point,
his speed. Yeah,
but to
getting
your
hit by a
point, I think you
defender.
get beat up. You know what I mean? Is the problem? Like he's going to get beat up. And then so of course, Cat. We have to see if how what he brings to the table because there were a couple of games in the playoffs last year where we saw Tobias Harris, for example, bodying him up. He was having issues. So I just wonder with the defensive player of the year in Cleveland, what that's going to look like. To your point, though, Darius Garland is starting the season out with that toe injury. Max Strus is out for a little bit as well. But I think I just trust Kenny Atkinson a little bit more than I trust Mike Brown. And of course, the Knicks are the Knicks, Falcon style. Prosperity is not their friend. You know what I mean? Orlando, I'm big on Orlando this year. I know you feel a little different, but I like the Desmond Bain pickup. Last year, when I look at Orlando, you had Paolo Banchero miss 36 games. Franz Wagner missed 22. They had the same injury, which was a freak injury. It was like a strained oblique. So it wasn't like a, leg injury or shoulder injury, something that you feel like, hey, this is going to affect their game going long term.
36 games.
Yeah.
It's one hell of a strain.
Yeah. And so it might have been a tear actually, but I know, but they both had the same injury. And that was what was so freaky about it. Jalen Suggs missed more than half the season. So, and the thing about Orlando is I like their defense. They're defensively gifted. So the one thing that I would like to see to hopefully make my prediction, because I got them finishing third, to help that come true, I need Paolo to do more inside the paint instead of trying to be, Rasheed Wallace out there on the perimeter all the time. He needs to add
But
that element to his game.
that's the thing. Like a lot of the stars don't do that. They go with the whatever the analytics says, and like I understand basketball and analytics, understand time plot. Get the best open shot you can get for the entire game. Like if you're constantly getting good open shots, you're gonna get points, you're gonna get rebounds, guys gonna be in position. You won't need to just have to shoot threes to get back into the game. Like you should be able to switch up the game, look at what's working. We talk about SGA, your league MVP, shooting the hell out of midi. Jalen Brunson shooting midi. All the playoff run, you hit the midi. We talked about the finals MVP a couple years ago. Jalen Brown, he was hitting the midi to stop the bleeding when Dallas was coming back. Hit the midi, like just get a shot to go in. I like Atlanta's move with Porzingis. His health was weird. I didn't know what kind of cold he had, or if he had like it just was. He was playing, and then he wouldn't have enough energy, and he
Just
would take
needed
him
some
out of the
Tylenol,
game.
I guess.
And then he was out for like a couple of weeks, and he'd come back. He'd be on like somewhat of a pitch count, and it's like, what is he like? Does he have like? Did he have like pneumonia? And they were just trying to just like work him through it. I don't know. Like they never really said exactly what was battling, but he was like constantly like just in and out, and he was like exhausted. I like Trey Young. I don't know why they keep trying to move him out of town. Like
I think they just didn't put a good team around him, and so it was almost like I got it. It just hit me. It's like the Kyler Murray thing. You know what I mean? Like you never really put a good team around him. You thought he was so gifted that he should be able to carry a team. And then when he couldn't because of his stature, you looked at him as you're not what we thought you were.
You trade away all the bigs and like, yo, how come you guys aren't getting more points? Like, well, we don't have anyone to rebound. So
and
one missed shot, we're one and done, 30 to 40% of the game.
Yeah, so I got Atlanta finishing fourth in the East, because to your point, they went out and got Nikhil Walker-Alexander, to help with the perimeter defense. You already have Dyson Daniels. They went and got Luke Kennard to hit some shots as well. And they should improve because last year they gave up a league worst 48% shooting to their opponents, which is, when you really think about that number, that just sounds ridiculous that the other team basically hit half their
Half
shots
their
against
shots.
you. So, and then you factor in Trae Young only shooting 34% from three when that's supposed to be his specialty, and 41% from the field overall. So hopefully the thought is having these other guys like Porzingis around him will make the game a little easier for him,
He
make his
needs
shots
space
easier.
because
Yes,
he and Jalen Brunson are probably the same height, but they're probably 30 or 40 pounds. Probably like a
right.
solid 25 pounds difference.
Right. And then of course, I've been hating on Doc Rivers since Doc Rivers been a thing. You know what I mean? The Bucks went out and got Miles Turner. They were able to keep Bobby Portis, but they didn't do very much else. Hopefully, my guy Andre Jackson can finally get some minutes this year. They lost Brook Lopez. He wasn't one of the old guys that we mentioned that went to the Clippers, but Brook Lopez is on the Clippers now. So Miles Turner, you would think theoretically, gives you a more athletic, younger version of the things that Brook Lopez could do. Your step out 3-point shooter, your shot blocker, just making life easier on Giannis because he has that athleticism that Giannis doesn't have to be the Wemby on defense because he's already a great defender to begin with. But you had
Correct.
Giannis in a position where he had to be that. But having a Miles Turner beside him, I think makes Milwaukee a little bit better. But I still, with Dame out, all that stuff, he's gone in Portland. I don't see Milwaukee as a threat. I think people will pick them as a threat just because of Giannis, but I
Yeah.
just still think they don't have enough.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. They are going to have to really hope this Miles Turner acquisition really hits. Because if it does, then they're your standard superstar with some really good role players, and hopefully you get some guys off the bench that been in the system for a couple of years that could really make an impact. And Giannis is 32, 11, and 11. You know, okay, we'll say 9 assists, but with the ball in his hand, he's 30-point triple double threat every single night. If you could get some other guys to kind of join this relay race with him, you could really make some headway.
So then you got what I like to refer to as the injured teams, Boston, Philly, Indiana,
Yeah,
any of those three you think exceeds expectation?
Boston. I think Boston exceeds expectations because without Tatum, I'm thinking it's probably a lot of people having them sixth, maybe seventh in the East
I got them fifth.
because you got to factor in who are the whole teams. You got to respect like, hey, this team is fully whole and they're back, and their star isn't going to be out all year. So
Right.
just out off the strength of respect, you got to probably put like 4 or 5 teams ahead of them. You got to like the Atlanta moves. It's like you said, you like Orlando. Milwaukee having Giannis is very similar to Boston and Jalen Brown because it's like you got a star. You see some other guys to kind of play out of above their typical role, but I think Boston could do it because they're still going to fire up a bunch of threes. And if guys can get in their groove where they're just still shooting all these threes, the coach is just unflappable, so he's going to be fine. But like I could see them 42, 44 wins, 46 wins, somewhere around there, because you have to factor in that Jason Tatum is a force multiplier of like 15 to 16 wins.
Yeah, I got him at 43 wins. Jason Tatum has been talking about coming back this year.
I
We'll
saw a
see.
video of him shooting step back jumpers.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. But right now, Jalen Brown, the world is yours. This is your opportunity to get out of the shadow, show that you are on Jason Tatum's level. I don't think you are. You're right there, but not quite. What is it? He's all right, but he's not real.
Not really.
So I think that he's going to have a good season number wise, as far as you're going to look up. He's going to average 27 points, maybe even 28. but then you're going to look down and it's like 42% shooting. You know what I mean? Like 36 from 3 or something along those lines. I like the Anthony Simons pickup. We'll see if he lasts the whole season. I think where Boston gets in trouble, and I think Derek White has the chance to be an all-star this year, but I think where they get in trouble is they're probably going to have to get so many minutes out of a guy like Peyton Pritchard, who was, sixth man of the year and all that last year. But now you're putting him into the limelight where you have to play a lot of minutes if you're going to bring Anthony off the bench as the instant offense.
I would start Anthony and keep Peyton with
I
the
would
six
too,
man.
but we'll see. We'll see, but I think losing Luke Cornett is going to be a bigger deal for them. I think that when you look at it, Anthony Simons brings 38% three-point shooting in his career on 9 attempts a game, so no small volume there. So I think he'll give Boston some offensive punch, but of course they're going to miss Tatum on defense. I think the Pistons take a step back. They lost Hardaway. They didn't re-sign Malik Beasley because he had his Fed drama going on, which he got cleared of, but they didn't bring him back.
Turned out to be nothing.
Yeah, Isaiah Stewart is trying to bring back the bad boys, I guess. But,
stop fighting.
Cade Cunningham could get some MVP votes this year. That's going to be my out on the limb thing there. They're going to have a rough start to the season, though, because they're going to have to try to get Jaden Ivey acclimated back into the offense, after his injuries last year. So, we'll see. But I'm not in on the Pistons this year.
Yeah, the basketball is going to be one of those. It's going to be like you're watching it for the love of the game. I don't think there's that many teams that are really you have a real shot of making the finals. Like you said, you picked OKC preseason last year, like Nostradamus, and then early in the latter part of the season,
before the
probably after
All-Star
James,
game.
you said Indiana was the team to watch out for. So that developed over a few months. As of right now, as we look at it right now, if the season, say we're getting around like December, January timeframe, if a team like Chicago, Brooklyn, Toronto, Charlotte, some of these teams can be 5 and whatever number of other remaining games, 6 or 7, 10 wins by January. So some of these teams are just going to be just so out of it. And then some of your top contenders, like you want the Clippers to be a contender, but you're going to see glaring holes. They're not going to be whole. So it's just going to be so many teams that are just going to, just through attrition, is going to play themselves out of it being competitive. And we're just going to be just rooting for somebody to be this year's Indiana, where it's like, can we get this entertainment? Can we get this team to come out of nowhere? Or can we get a team like San Antonio to really put it together and, start, giving us something to look forward to? Because other than that, we're going to get the Lakers and Golden State and just shove down our throats every single week if we don't get like some real competitive basketball. Because I think Oklahoma City probably has a couple of more nationally televised games than the rest of the league, and they should be at 50 off the rip. But I think they're all somewhere around 40.
So I know injury was a big deal last year. Where do we stand on the Sixers this year? Because I really like VJ Edgecombe, but Jarrett McCain's hurt again. Tyrese Maxey's back. Embiid's been playing in preseason.
They're hurt. Their bigs get hurt, and their smalls are small.
That's not a good combination.
That's not a good combination. It's like if you had, like Luka is what 6'8".
They list him at 6'8". Yeah.
So if you had like Paul George is your 6'8" guy, but he's always hurt. So if the guy you'd brought in was like 6'7", he can kind of take that role. But VJ and Maxey are like 6'2" and 6'3". They play fast downhill. Embiid's always hurt, and is always his legs.
He just doesn't fit anymore.
he's playing around 285 pounds, 300 pounds, somewhere in that range. And he's already wasn't playing back to backs. I just don't feel like there's enough time. Just with the schedule as it is, I don't think he's gonna play all the games. So even if he was available for 82 games, I still think they'd find a way to have him only play 60.
Yeah, I think if
But
he
the
could get
likelihood
to
of him even playing
55,
60 is yeah.
I think if he
If,
could get to 55, that would be good.
but that's 55 saying that he's a healthy scratch.
Right. No back to
But
backs.
no back to backs. But like it could be he could miss 12 games out of the first 40.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're like, we got to get him. We need him for this run. But now you got to do the back to backs and stuff like that. So you're like, you're missing even more games once he gets going. So that's the problem with Phillies. Like they have so many questions around injuries, and the injuries kind of dictate how their season goes. Where Indiana, Tyrese Halliburton's out. They don't have any other like injury questions going into the season that they have to manage throughout the year. The Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, they have to manage his injury situation. Other teams, you manage your stars' minutes. You manage, who comes off the bench, who's your sixth man, what your rotation is. Am I going to play 9 guys? Am I going to play 7? You got to factor in who's available every single week as part of your preparation. It's hard to prepare week in and week out when you have 4 games this particular week because you got Sunday, Tuesday, a Thursday, and a Saturday. Mm-hmm. And it's like, they're all winnable games, but I don't know how many I can play Embiid in. Stuff like that.
Right. So who is your surprise East playoff team?
My surprise East playoff team. I mean, they're so hurt, and they're like either they're hurt or they're depleted. Like Miami is like, I could say Miami because I think they still have pieces they need, but
they had a great coach.
They had a great coach. So I'm gonna say Miami because it's gonna be like Ty Lue with all the players that weren't available for the Clippers. You're gonna look up, and they're gonna be around 4th or 5th for a lot of the season, and then probably finish the year like 6th or 7th or something like that, probably in the plan. But it's gonna be like he did a hell of a job to get that team to X number of wins. So I'm gonna say Miami's probably gonna be probably a big surprise.
I got Nikola Jovic as one of my most improved players as well. Him and Ben Mathurin. But I think that if you're just looking at names, if you're just looking at a roster and you're looking for good players, the answer is probably Toronto. The problem is that Toronto doesn't have the infrastructure or the roster organization. You're waiting for Scotty Barnes to still take that leap. You got RJ Barrett and BI trying to fight over the basketball. You got to get Emmanuel quickly back into the lineup because he was out most of last year. You got Grady Dick. You're hoping Jacoby Walter takes a step forward. It's just a lot that Jakob Pertl, So last year I made this comment about the 76ers where I said they might have too much. And I think that's where Toronto is. There's pardon what I'm about to say, because this is an old school cliche that I probably shouldn't say, but too many Indians, not enough Chiefs. You know what I mean? Who's the leader of this team? Like BI and Barrett want to take the shots, but who's going to be the guy that actually settles them down and gets them in and out the offensive system? So
the way they've legislated the point guard out of an NBA team blows my mind.
It does. Yeah. And that's why you see certain teams that just won't win no matter what happens because they don't have that solidifier, to run the offense. But
certain teams don't really need it. Like, I don't think the Lakers need a point guard, even though technically I think Luka is a point guard.
Right.
Steph is listed as a point guard, doesn't play like one. SGA, I think, is also listed as a point guard, but these are anomalies. Minnesota, you need a point guard. You can't give the ball to Ant all day long.
Right.
The Clippers,
we saw that in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, you need a good young point guard. Chris Paul can't be your 82 game guy. I mean, he's 40. Like,
Right.
like people keep acting
So,
like time and bones and exhaustion doesn't exist. Like, you got to be realistic.
so against my better judgment, because you brought up health,
Yeah.
this team is the definition of unhealthy. I'm gonna go out on a limb because I like a lot of the moves that the Hornets made. So I'm gonna pick the Hornets to get that last play-in spot.
Oh,
Um,
10?
yeah, you know what I'm saying? My guy, Brandon Miller, he missed most of last season. They did get rid of Mark Williams. And when you look at it from an injury standpoint, the average, so between LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges, I almost said McHale, Miles Bridges, Brandon Miller, and Trey Mann, the average missed game between those four players was 44 games last year. You know what I mean? But they went out and got Con Knipple. They got Saloon some playing time last year. I just like where they're going with this. We'll see how it looks. They may not make the play in, but I'm gonna just go out on a limb. And last thing I'm gonna say before we get out of here is keep your eye on Trey Johnson. He's gonna finish second or third in the rookie of the year because I think Cooper Flag has already been ordained. And then Keyshawn George, keep your eye out on him as well.
That can be tough for the rookie of the year. I think Ace Bailey out in Utah.
I think he's going to be too inefficient. That's the problem. I think he's
I
going to
read
be
a report that he parted with his his agent, the guy that was representing him. But I think Utah's going to put him in position to get buckets. I just don't know. Like I said,
I think
these
he's
guys
going
are
to
young.
score.
Like these guys are like 18, 19 years
Yeah.
old.
I think he's going to average about 16 and a half. Maybe 4 rebounds, which I think is a disappointment for his height, and then he'll probably have a assist or 2. So I think that the other guys like Dylan Harper, Cooper Flag, they're going to have numbers across categories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Cooper could be like, 16,
17.
the same thing, 16, but 8 rebounds, 5 assists. Yeah. So I think that's where
1.2 steals.
Yeah. So unless
one
Ace
block,
Bailey, so I think of Ace Bailey as and I know people are going to kill me for this, but he reminds me of Carmelo. You know what I mean? A lot of Carmelo. So I could see him if he takes off the way that Carmelo did as a rookie, then yes. But I just don't think that. I think it's going to take a year or 2 for him.
Not a playmaker, more
right.
I need to. I'm a bucket getter, but I gotta learn how to get these buckets in the NBA.
Yeah,
Let's see.
So there you go.
At least we have some intriguing rookies though. Like I think the league is in the right path. I know last year it was like raw because the guys weren't American. No one's seen them play. No one has seen them play.
No xenophobia.
It was like we just hadn't seen him play. We saw like Alex Sars. Like I watched some of his highlights in like the overtime elite or whatever. I was like, he's just dribbling straight to the rim.
Oh, he's going to get some defensive player of the year votes this year too.
Like no one was bumping into him. Like I'm talking about like the highlight tape that they were playing leading up to the draft. It was like no one's bumping into him. No one's like knocking him to the ground. He's just dribbling, big guy dribbling the ball, coming down. French
he
connection.
Had some injury issues last year too. So we'll see how that goes. But go ahead, Mr. Logical. Remind the people one last time your NBA Finals and your champion.
NBA Finals, going with OKC over the Knicks.
And I'm going with Denver over Cleveland. So we'll see how this plays out. We'll reevaluate just like we always do. But thanks for joining us for our NBA preview. He is the one and only world-renowned, world-famous, cool, calm, and collected.
Always.
Born in Texas, raised in VA, representing New Jerusalem to the point that he still wants the Nets back in Jersey. He is Mr. Logical. Do not bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
And I am down here in the Alamo, ready to see these 3 guards in the lineup, going left so much that you thought I was southpaw. I do believe in Joe Hendry. Watch out, Tank, because that boy might knock you on your butt. I am 2'5". We love y'all. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate. Do all the free things. Do all the good things. Liquid Death in hand. If not, hydration in mouth. Pause. We'll be back on Thursday this week with our NFL and college football picks for the week. So we'll see you then. Sports Reports.
Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready.